That's what I want to speak about, actually, about what happened and what's happening.
Rabbi.
Yes. No.
Owing to the fact that we are talking about what you just said, I have a problem.
Only one problem is good?
My problem is, we learn NACHLAOT,
Siman
Labanim. But in reality, we very often don't apply this rule. We don't apply this rule very often.
I think that
in this particular case, we don't.
I think we should.
Okay.
That's what I want to speak about, in terms and to look at the situation from a perspective of Jewish history, Jewish destiny, and not just as a some people have the attitude is, okay, now we are going through tough time, let's try to resolve the problem and go back to the way things used to be.
Which was never good either.
Which was never good. Which was never good. And I think that instead we have to face the situation and realize that we are going a step forward towards something much greater. So
we live in reality or we live in our books?
Well, it's not the books. The books is when you say the books, it sounds as the books
I make a very clear example. Sirsei Chachamim about Sodom says it's not true that all of the people of Sodom were bad people. More than majority were people. Some were not bad people, but they kept silent.
Right.
So that's why they merited to be annihilated. Should we apply this today?
Okay,
So
I'm not going to speak to annihilate and who not to. That's not. You know, there's a say once a general American general said that we are not here to judge people. We are only God can judge the people. We are only trying to facilitate the meeting. Right.
Okay.
So now I'm saying here we're not going to try to speak about whom to kill or not to kill. That's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But try to understand a little bit what's going on. That's the extent of my. Yeah, okay, look again. Well, let's talk about it. It's not Ma'osim Machoshvim at this point. It's not. I'm not expecting any one of us to go and put on our uniform and go and fight. That's not the point. I mean, if you want to do that, I think it's wonderful, and I think we should be more than thankful to all our soldiers who are risking their lives and all. But this is not meant to be a shiur about encouraging people to go out and actually fight, although I think those who can should. It's more in terms of understanding what's going on. That's what I'd like to speak about. So if you have here various Mareh Mekomot, right? So I'd like to start with a story that's a number one. The first point is to explain the role of God in things that are happening. You know, just to give you a little bit of a parable to as a prologue to what I want to say. I have my father had a cousin, and she's still alive, and she lives in Manchester. She's an old lady by now, and she went through the Holocaust. She lost her entire family in Auschwitz. And then after the war, she came back. My father was the only religious cousin who remained alive, and she stayed by my parents, and my parents married her. Brought her to under the chuppah and all. And for many, many years, she didn't want to speak about the Holocaust. She was completely blocked because at the beginning, after the Holocaust, she lives in Manchester in England. And after the Holocaust, she started speaking to some people when she went through, and then the ladies say, we don't want to hear about those things. That's upsetting. So she forgot about it. And then later on, she, through a grandson of hers, she got to suddenly open up her mind, and she became very talkative about her experiences. Then she became eventually a guide for Esha Torah to different camps, to Auschwitz, to Auschwitz, and she would discuss what happened, and through that bring Jewish identity to many kids who are not identifying with Judaism. Then someone asked her, they call her Bobby. That's how she's known in Manchester. Bobby, where was God in the Holocaust? You know what she answered?
It was me.
With me. Right. So in other words, where was God? Where is God in terrible? So of course God is everywhere, but it's only an introduction to try to talk about the role of God. So actually, I think the answer is more than what just Bobby said, although what she said is true. And I think that the answer is really what the Chazon Ish wants to answer his sister, who asked him, where was God during the Holocaust? And he says, you're asking me where was God? He created the Holocaust. That's a very difficult answer, right? A very poignant answer, let's say. Because we don't want to think that God could be involved in doing things like that, but once we look at the Jewish history and understand that we have a destiny, then certain things are meant to happen. That doesn't mean that God wanted us to suffer, chas v'shalom, but sometimes that's what had to take place, and it's so difficult to speak about it without falling down. Any case, so the first Gemara is in Gittin, number 1. So it's talking about a general, at the time was the emperor, Emperor Nero, the Roman emperor. So it's a bit of a different historic outlook than what we have learned in school. And this Gemara says like this, Kikaasi, when Nero came with the intention of destroying the Beis HaMikdash. So he wanted to know exactly if what he was about to do has chances of success or not. So Shada Gira Mizrach. So he decided to test the situation by shooting an arrow, by throwing an arrow towards the east. Ata Nafal Yerushalayim. And as it went to that direction, it went straight to the direction of Jerusalem, wherever he was. Lemarav. Then he went to the other direction. Ata Nafal Yerushalayim. Again, the arrow fell in the direction of Jerusalem. The Arba Ruchot HaShamayim, all 4 corners. Ata Nafal Yerushalayim. It fell into Jerusalem, to the direction of Jerusalem. So that kind of indication that things look good, that I'll be successful. Then Amar leYenuka. Then he found a cheder boy, a boy that was learning Torah, and he asked him, Psokli Psukecha. I want to hear you pasuk. What did you learn in cheder? The last pasuk you learned. Amar le. So the kid told him, V'natati et miknati be'edom b'yad ami Yisrael. It's number 2 in Yechezkel. V'natati et miknati be'edom. I have given my revenge against Edom b'yad ami Yisrael, through my nation Israel. It's talking about the Osid Lavoy in the world in the very near future, Bezrat Hashem. So God says, my revenge against Edom is going to go through my nation Israel. V'asu be'edom ke'api v'chachamati. And they will do against Edom, expressing my anger. V'yed'u ki et nikmatinu mashem loki. They will know my revenge. So that's the pasuk. So now we go back to 1. Omar. So Nero said, Kutsha b'richu ba'yelechiru ve'beitei. So now the situation is like this. Hashem has decided to destroy Yerushalayim. And that's why eventually there will be a nekama against Edom for doing it. That's what Hashem wants to do. Now, he wants to use me as being the bad guy. He wants to wash his hands, Kippurei Yadei, Bahu Gavra, with this man, meaning himself. It's a euphemism. Why should I be the bad one? Arak, he ran away. V'azal v'yagayer, and he became a ger. V'nafak min Rabbi Meir. and Rabbi Meir was his descendant. That's a bit different than the history that we know about Nero. But the point is, it's an incredible insight. In other words, yes, Hashem wants certain things to happen. But who says that you have to be the one involved? Now, there are some good people, you have some bad people. Now, you might decide to be the good guy or the bad guy. But then, if you're the bad guy, then you're going to suffer the consequences. Because who asked you to be the bad guy? God wants it to happen, doesn't have to be you. So Nero got the point, and he left it. So the point over here is that Hashem has a plan, and the plan is going to take place, but the plan doesn't mean that a particular person and a particular group has to have to do these things. It could be done by anyone. Further to make the point, look at number 3. Ki tivneh bayit chadash. When you're going to build a new house, v'asita ma'akeh legagecha, you have to make a fence on your roof. V'lo tasim damim bevetecha, do not place blood in your house. Ki yipol hanofel mimenu, because the one who is supposed to fall will fall. In other words, if you don't put a fence, so someone is going to fall down. Now, who is going to fall down? The one who is supposed to fall. So Rashi says, what does it mean, Yipol hanofel? Well, obviously the one who is supposed to fall is going to fall. I mean, if he was supposed to fall, he's not going to fall. No, the point is, Ra'ui ze lipol. The one who is going to fall is meant to fall. In other words, the guy there's a din against him, and the din says he should fall from the roof. But you shouldn't be the one responsible for his death, because you're supposed to put a fence around on your roof. Right? Something good is going to happen to be done by good people, and bad things will be done by bad people. So you got to decide what you want to do. You want to be the good guy, you're going to be the bad guy. So you can't say, well, what am I supposed to do if this guy's supposed to fall? He should have been a good guy. He's the bad guy, not me. No. He might be the bad guy, deserves to fall, but you are negligent, and you'll be responsible for his death. Now, so you see, that's what do you mean? God is responsible. He's responsible. What am I doing? Didn't do anything. I'm a good guy. I'm a tzaddik. Just forgot to put on the fence. You know, I was busy. I went to shir. I do all kinds of good things. What do you want from me? No. You have a roof. You got to put a fence, right? So that's the point that that the Chazal is making here, is that Hashem, of course, is involved in everything. Hashem wants certain things to happen. But it doesn't mean that the Hamas is going to be innocent, or that even a person who is not as bad as Hamas, let's say our politicians or the army who are not prepared, doesn't mean that they can get away from it. It doesn't mean to say, well, obviously God wanted it to happen, so the fact that it took us 3 days, I mean, again, I'm not accusing. I don't know why it took them 3 days. I don't understand it, and I don't accuse anybody, because the last thing I would want to do, chas v'shalom, is to be mekatrek, to accuse anyone. But I'm saying, if any one of them was negligent, we have
to accuse.
No, we don't have to accuse. It's not at least not up to me to accuse. I think that the questions have to be raised, and then an inquiry is to be made, and all that. I'm not there to. I'm not condemning anybody. I don't have an agenda. Nothing. I'm just saying that if anyone, Khalila, did any negligence, then he's also going to be part of the people who have to pay the price. Yes?
I'm not sure if you're saying this, so I'm asking you. Are you saying that these deaths, kidnappings, rapes, murders, and burnings were all meant to happen whether Hamas did them or not? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Yeah, you pray
I'm saying that.
keeper.
I'm saying that it was fine where God wanted it. Now it sounds terrible. Why would God want something, such a thing? And I am not going to explain why did God want these things to happen? Because
I didn't ask you that.
but it was meant to happen, yes. To the level of, I'm not saying they had no choice in the level of cruelty and all. I'm not saying that, you find the concept that, they went overboard, fine. But nonetheless, it was part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan. That's what I'm saying, yes.
In other words, you're saying, another way of putting it, if the Germans had not created the Shoah, all those 6 million Jews would have been tortured and died anyway? That's exactly the same thing.
I agree with you.
And
yes.
you actually believe that?
I believe that. You can leave the place saying I'm madman.
Everybody believes that.
I think that it would not have happened if God didn't want it. Yes.
I don't think everybody believes that.
I'm not speaking for anybody. It's my understanding. And you can say that's not for me. And if you want to walk out, I'll have no problems. But I believe that to be true. I believe that
if Gaddafi had not brought that plane down over Lockerbie, somebody else would have brought it down. Again and again,
Okay, let's we come to a point here where we it goes into a different area. Let's say Gaddafi putting down the plane. Okay, now does it mean that all the people deserve to die around the plane? I'm not saying that. I'm saying is that they were on the plane and there was meant to be this terrible thing happening. Now some people might have a big zechut and the plane, they didn't catch the plane or things like that. I'm not saying that many things could have happened and it did happen, and this is really beyond the scope of who are we to judge. But I'm saying big tragedies like that happen because God wanted them to happen. Yes. Well, the towers that fell, right? The 9/11. God wanted it to happen. It didn't happen, but God was sleeping. God is not sleeping.
So we can never understand this, but we have to have a response.
Exactly. We cannot understand because
what are we to base the response upon?
On understanding that
we can't understand. It's impossible.
Well, let's say now we look at the Holocaust, right? We still don't understand the Holocaust, but do we see how things have moved since the Holocaust? That Israel now in Eretz Israel then gave us the strength to go and build our own country, and God showed us tremendous favor by allowing us to have this country and all. And we can see how it's connected to the Holocaust. If the Holocaust would not have happened, we'd never reach that point. Now, do we say that?
We don't know.
We don't know, but we can see that the Jews coming out from the ashes suddenly had that tremendous strength and a tremendous. They just grew from such a terrible tragedy. In other words, the history is moving, and that's part of the history is going through terrible tragedies, and we. When I don't claim to understand why it had to happen this way and not a different way, and I'm just saying that these things happened because God wanted them to happen. Again, this is what the Chazon Ish said. It's not my words. The Chazon Ish was much. The Chazon Ish was Avraham Yeshayahu Karelitz. He was one of the greatest rabbanim in the Lithuanian. It was not from Hasidei Chabad, but I think it was respected by everyone. The Chazon Ish was such a masmid that he would learn all the time by his table, and he would learn until the moment he would feel that he didn't have enough strength and to go to sleep. So he would, just the last morning, he would get up, go to his bed. And sometimes he didn't calculate well, and he would fall on the floor on the way to his bed. That was the Chazon Ish. I mean, he was a holy man, as holy as can be. And then he said that. So I'm allowed to say something which, it's not my chidush. I'm not coming here to say crazy ideas. I'm trying to explain them a little bit, maybe. That's all I'm trying to do. So I'm sorry to shock you. I know it's shocking. I know it's disturbing. And we live in disturbing times, yes.
First Shabbat after October 7th.
I'm sorry?
First Shabbat after October 7th where I go, the rabbi said it was a terrible sacrifice, but obviously Hashem wanted to arouse us. We can't just live with rockets every day. So he wanted to arouse Israel to take care of the situation. It's very hard to hear, but
that could certainly be one of the points. I don't think it's the only point, but I think this is certainly one of a direct result of a situation, that how we can look positively. I mean, this is terrible, the fact that we didn't have any proper mamad in the south and in the north. People were subjected to bombarding, and we don't have a mamad. A scandal. Sken Kamo, this is something which the people should, I mean, I'm so angry about that. This is horrible. That's certainly a point. I think it's much greater than that. But that's certainly a point, that we should learn our lesson from that very painful lesson. I mean, for that alone, I would think it would have been maybe easier ways to learn such a lesson. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. God is running the world, and I trust Him. He does it the best possible.
You talk about us learning a lesson, but what this has done, a large part of the world feels they have permission to release more hate against the Jew.
Oh, so this is really this is Chanoch, yes?
Yes.
I really wanted to speak about that, Chanoch, about the tremendous hatred against Israel, which is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Why is it that the people hate us to such an extent? What have we done to them? Halacha yadua she'esav on Yaakov. Okay.
What is that?
There's a halacha that Esav hates Yaakov. And I'd like to understand that halacha. What is it coming from? What did we do to Esav? I mean, okay, Yaakov wasn't very, Yaakov tricked him.
It's metaphysics, it's beyond the rational. Like the mitzvot.
Right. But, okay, I mean, again, what I'm going to answer is not going to be a completely rational answer, but it's going to help us understand. I think it helps me to understand it. What is it that they have? What is it? What problem do they have?
Excuse me, I have actually 2 medical appointments. Okay. I'm not leaving because I'm upset with you.
Okay.
I hope we can get into this more.
I wish we would have a pleasure of discussing better things than that, but all the best to you.
okay.
You want to be my show?
Refuah Shalema.
Keep safe.
Yes. So this is something which was really the next point of understanding who this what is called anti-Semitism. I call it Jew hatred.
Hatred of the Jew.
Hatred of the Jew. It's not against the Semites, it's against us, and it's not just anti; it's hatred. So the Gemara in Shabbos, number 4, brings us an answer which I'd like to elaborate on. My Har Sinai, right? Har Sinai has different names. Har Sinai, Har Chorev. So there the Gemara goes from the point of view that the name of the mountain is called Chorev. Why is it called Sinai? Har Sheyarda Sin'ah Lumot Olam Alav. This is the mountain where hatred has been discovered against the Jews. In other words, Sinai, Sin'ah, the same. One's a samach, one's a sin. But we are very. The Chazal is it sounds the same phonetic way to say the word. Sin'ah, the Chazal say you can learn one from the other. How Sinai comes from there comes the Sin'ah to the world. So we'd like to explain why would Sin'ah come from Har Sinai. By the way, this question that you're asking, Chanoch, why is there such a hatred? This is a very important question. It's not only bothering us here in King George in Yerushalayim. It's a philosophical question that has been bothering big philosophers, big thinkers throughout the centuries. There is a famous French philosopher that I'm sure we've all heard of him, Jean-Paul Sartre, and he wrote a whole book on that, Réflexions sur la question juive, reflections about the Jewish question.
He was a hater of the Jew.
I don't know if he was. He wasn't. I don't think he was a hater of the Jew. He might have been very critical. I don't really know. He might have been. I don't really care. I'm just he wrote a whole book about it. So he came up with an interesting answer, which I think is probably true I mean, it's a true point that he made, but doesn't really explain it. He says that people must have, people have to feel good about themselves, right? It's an important thing. We all know we have to feel good about ourselves. There's a big problem with schools, that schools don't make kids feel good enough. That's why they are failing so much, our children, because of the lack of making kids feel good. It's like the biggest problem. And everybody needs to feel good. And many, in the France and in the European countries, you have different classes. So the low class didn't feel very good about themselves. They were the lower class, they were the Rabbis. So they needed to feel good about themselves. So they would go and they would blame the Jews. So they were higher than the Jews at least, so they were not so low. That's, I mean, if I remember, I read this book many years. I'm sure it was deeper than what I'm saying now, but if I remember, it was this basic understanding of anti-Semitism. It fulfills a psychological need to feel good about oneself. So this is, and it's probably true that unfortunately people, instead of feeling good about themselves because of who they are and realizing that we all have something good about us and there's no reason to feel bad, many people have no life and they feel very empty, so they must feel a feeling of, I've got something, I'm better than the Jews, I can tell the Jew what to do, I can persecute the Jew, and so on and so forth. Chazal has something completely different, what we just said. No, the point of the sinah, the hatred of the Jew, comes from Har Sinai. What is it in Har Sinai that is so detrimental to the feeling for non-Jews that they feel so bad that they must hate us as a result of Har Sinai? So I would like to bring two sources. I mean, the point I'm going to make doesn't really need those two sources, but those two sources, I think, illustrate the point very nicely. This is a word I've been using many times. I might have mentioned it earlier. If I did, I apologize. But it's, as I tell my students, that it's one of the most important parts of learning is to do chazara. So, you learn something, go over it again. So if I've taught it to you already once, so it's good to hear a chazara. It's a Meshech Chochma. Meshech Chochma is one of the great, again, a Lithuanian rabbi who lived was in Latvia, in Dvinsk. And he wrote a beautiful sefer on the Chumash called Meshech Chochma. Rabbi Yisrael, but it was not Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Meir Simcha Cohen from Dvinsk. So he goes on the Pasuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu on his way to Egypt, at the very beginning, when he's supposed to go and liberate Klal Yisrael, right? Beginning of the Exodus. So it says like this, number 5. Hashem tells Hashem tells Moshe, and V'amarta al Paro, you tell Paro, Ko Amar Hashem, this is what God said, Beni Bechori Yisrael, my son, my Bechor Yisrael. And the pasuk continues and says, well, this is the next quote on Shemot. There are 3 quotes. The last quote on number 5. It says, "Va'amar elecha," and I'm telling you, "Shalach et ami ve'yavduni." Send away my child, my son, so he can worship me. V'tema'enu shalcho. If you refuse to send him away, hinei anochi oreged bincha bechorecha. I'm going to kill your firstborn. In other words, Yisrael is my firstborn, and you keep bothering my firstborn, I'll take care of your firstborn. Right? So the Meshech Chochma says, what does it mean that we are the firstborn of God? Well, what does it mean, firstborn? So it says like this. Sheken Bechor, this is the second quote, Meshech Chochma. Sheken Bechor notel pishnai. Right? We know that a Bechor, a firstborn, he gets twice as much as the others, right? He gets 2 portions out of the inheritance that he's getting, right? So why? So he says, Mishum she'oseh oto la'av. The Bechor, he is the one who actually made his father a father, right? Until he was born, he's the firstborn, so until then you're a couple without children. And now the father became a father because of that child. So that's the Bechor. Ken Yisrael asu kivyachol Hashem yitbarach le'av la'olam. So too Yisrael is made, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be the king of the world. Shem ikiro v'ashkachato v'yichudo v'teva. And Klal Yisrael has been there by expanding their understanding of God to the entire world and declare this is the creator of the world. He is our father. So Yisrael is basically what has brought HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the conscious knowledge of the world. That's the point. That's why we called the Bechor.
No, we go to the end.
Yeah, no. I just, and the question is whether I want to add something to it, but it's not really that important. This really explains. I was just saying in 2 words. Why is it that Pesach is called Pesach, which is the jumping over the firstborn, and we don't call Pesach by another name, such as the holiday of Geulah, of salvation, of deliverance, of liberty? Because Makat Bechorah, the fact that God did actually kill the Bechor, fulfilling the promise that he made, so he showed that this is why I'm doing that. I'm doing it because you are my Bechor. I'm not just delivering you because, it's not fair that you guys are in prison. Nice people, you don't deserve to be in Egypt. I want you to be out because it's not the right. No, it's much deeper than that. I'm letting you out because you are my Bechor, because you are there to open up my presence to the world. That's what Pesach is all about. So even though the word Pesach doesn't seem to be that important, so God jumped over the Egyptians' houses, so what? I mean, it's very nice and all, that's not celebrating that, celebrating we came out of Egypt. No, we're celebrating that, because that's the point. God's skipping over our houses because we are his Bechor. And that's why we went out of Egypt, right? You see the point.
Does this have to do with what Hashem was showing the world, as opposed to Pharaoh? Pharaoh says he creates himself.
Exactly. He creates himself and there is no God. And here are my people who do understand that Pharaoh is nothing. He didn't create himself and he's always trying to fool everyone. And and I'm God. And they're going to show that to the world. Same point, number 6. The Sforno. Sforno is one of my favorite.
I've been to his apartment.
You've been to where?
His apartment.
Really? His apartment is still around?
Bologna. Yeah.
He lived there like 400 years ago or something, no? Wow.
He wasn't home.
He wasn't home.
The rent must have gone up.
So Sforno is a commentary on the Chumash. Is one of my favorites, I must say, because it's so insightful, it's brilliant, but also so deep. So he says like this. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah, so before Kabbalat Torah, he says, "Vatem tiyudi mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh," and Am Segula, right? You'll be a kingdom of kohanim, holy nation, and a Am Segula, a nation of a treasure of. Segula means like something like a treasure which is so wonderful and different than anything else. So bezet you segula mikulam. The segula, the specialness, the special attribute that you have is because of that. Ki tiyu mamlechet kohanim, because of the fact that you will be a kingdom of kohanim. What are kohanim? Kohanim are the teachers. Lehavin uleorot lechol amina enoshi likro kulam b'shem Hashem. Because the Kohanim are the ones that will teach the entire humanity that they should understand who God is. Likro kulam b'shem Hashem. So actually here it's not the Kohanim just as the Kohanim. All of Israel are now the Kohanim. All the Israel are really the teachers to the world of the presence of God. So they should all worship God together. As actually the prophecy is about the word to come, that everyone will recognize God. So the point is that this is what the Torah is meant to achieve. Is much, much more than just a list of laws. It's not just a way for us to become closer to God. Yes, it is a list of laws. Yes, it is a way to become closer to God. Yes, it is the best possible thing for us. But there's more to it, says the Sforno. This is how we're supposed to make a change in the world. It's not only us, the entire world. Right? We think that sometimes our behavior makes no difference. And if we behave well or we don't behave well, if sometimes we are not always polite enough when we encounter non-Jewish people, and if we spit on the floor, if we see a non-Jewish a nun, so that's a proper thing to do. No. You don't understand. Any time that you behave in a way where people are not going to say, oh my God, that's a Jew. He is the one giving the light to the world. If you behave in any way which is contrary to that, then this is the worst possible thing. That's contrary to the whole purpose of the Torah. You see my point? Not my point, but the Sforno says, right? This is what we're meant to do. I try very hard to only express what it says. I'm not really trying to say my own little thoughts.
If
Yes.
we have to teach to the world
Yes.
what is God's will,
What's God's will?
what
Yes.
is God's will, we need the courage to do it. But apparently we don't have it.
Well, some people do, some people don't. I guess.
But you might have. But the Rabbanut, for instance, if they keep shut, it means they don't have the courage.
Well, sometimes you know if you say things
So
that people
diplomacy-
misunderstand, it's
Does
better to be
diplomacy come
quiet.
in or not?
What?
Diplomacy.
Yeah, no, it does come out. Diplomacy is a dangerous word because it's associated with hypocrisy and all. But sometimes you know the Chazal say that.
Darkei Shalom.
Darkei Shalom, and the same way there is a mitzvah to say something to others that will be heard, is a mitzvah not to say things if it won't be heard. So if you're going to say something and people want, Ochiat is only if it's going to be heard, right? If you're going to say something to someone and he's going to get even angry at you and he won't understand you, then there's no Ochiat is to rebuke someone, right?
So you never know what to do.
What do you mean? You have to use your mind. We have a mind to judge.
No, I'm speaking in this case.
I don't know what the situation is. I mean, I guess the people who are of influence have to use their mind to know when is the right time to say the right thing and when is the right time to be quiet. I mean, things are delicate. You know, we have to be smart. We cannot afford to be right and be stupid because they were not right any longer.
I wouldn't dream, differently from Hanoch, to give my vote to Ben Gvir. But, according to this, Ben Gvir is not so far.
It's not far at all.
Exactly.
But it might not be the right. I mean, again, I'm not in politics. I don't.
Yes.
I'm really not a politician. I don't.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't vote for Ben Gvir neither. But not that I really know. I don't know the man, and he's a very fine person. I think he wants to do the right thing, and perhaps his outlook might be sometimes very good and sometimes not. One has to look in the right. You know, when is the right time for this kind of policy, but it's not. And I don't know. Yeah, that's for sure. There's no consensus to appreciate what this kind of attitude and all. Then all people are going to laugh at it, so it's not worth it. Yes, you were asking a question. No. So I know. This is really to tell. I'm not the right person to give any type of political advice. I don't follow politics, and I don't. I'm not in that space, but. The only good thing I can say about politics is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls them also. So hopefully they're going to do the right thing.
So Kabbalah talks about evil in the sense of to transform itself by recognizing its own evil. And that's what I think Pharaoh was about. And could we reasonably expect him, who thinks that he's the creator himself, that he's going to recognize his defilement?
Actually, it's very interesting because there's a Chazal that says that. It says that Paro eventually, who he became? He became the Melech Nineveh, the king of Nineveh. According to that, so he realizes then finally that you can't get away with everything. That sometimes there is, God will show us that it's not acceptable. So once he got the nevuah from Yonah telling that Nineveh is doomed, then he says, "Oh, that's for real. God means it. He did already to me when I was a king of Mitzrayim, and we better take a lesson." And he's the one who told everyone, "You all have to do tshuva and all." So according to the Midrash, yes, Paro got the message. He got the lesson. He learned the lesson that he is no God and there is a God, and what we do have consequences, and we cannot just get away with doing anything we want.
So back to anti-Semitism?
Back to anti-Semitism. Back to anti-Semitism.
Can't get enough of it.
So number 7, Vayi bin Soa Aaron. We say that every, 3-4 times a week, right? Monday, Thursdays, Shabbos, and Shabbos for Mincha. Vayi bin Soa Aaron, Vayomer Moshe, Kumo Hashem, V'yafutzu Evecha, V'yanusu Mesanachem Mipanecha. So when the Aaron started, the Aaron is the ark with the Luchot, started to move, in the Midbar, so Moshe says, "Stand up, God, and your enemies are going to spread out, and they will run away." So who are the enemies? Who are God's enemies? Who are God's enemies? Says Rashi, "Mesanecha elu sonei Yisrael," those who hate the Jews. Shekol hasonet Yisrael soned mishamar vaya olam. The ones who hate the Jews, who did they really hate? They really hate God. שנאמר ומסנך נשאו ראש ומהם על עמך ירימו סוד. In other words, hating Jews is because who the Jews represent. They represent morality. They represent the will of God, as we discussed until now. So that's the rejection of the Jews is the rejection of God, who is so demanding that the world is supposed to be moral, that the world is supposed to be good, that we're supposed to care for one another, we're supposed to have a society which is functioning, and a healthy society, and we're supposed to be all the good things. And who wants that? We individuals are supposed to be good people and all, and everyone, whatever he's going to do, he's going to have to pay the price if he does bad things, and if he does the good things, he's going to be rewarded. That's demanding. That's hard. We don't want to hear that. And you are the messenger, shooting the messenger. Well, we are the messenger of God. It's much easier to shoot the messenger than shooting at God. Yes, Jackie, you raise your hand. Oh, you do, I'm sorry.
Wasn't that the main part of Hitler's anti-Judaism?
Yes.
That they were in favor of justice?
They were in favor of justice? The Jews, of course. They brought, I think he said it, you brought this horrible thing called consciousness. To have consciousness, what does it mean? Why should have consciousness? We're just supposed to follow orders. We don't have consciousness to think what's right and what's wrong. What do you mean? Right? And this was the main excuse in Nuremberg from all those Rishonim who were trying to justify what they were doing by following the orders. The answer is no. Following the orders, if they're not moral, is not an excuse. Right? This was I don't know if you ever read the transcripts of the trial of Eichmann. This is I'm just reading it right now. It just happens to not the exact transcripts, but the description of it. It's incredible. It's this lady Hochstadt in America, Deborah Hochstadt. And she wrote this very insight. I mean, she was a reporter at the time of the trial of Eichmann. It's fascinating.
Hannah Arendt, are you talking about?
Well, not Hannah Arendt. No, she had an agenda. Hannah Arendt. She was very upset about many things. She writes the way it happened.
Her boyfriend was hiding her.
What?
Her boyfriend was hiding her.
Was hiding her?
Yeah.
What do you mean hiding her?
A philosopher.
It's his name. Oh, yeah. I didn't read her. I just know that she was very been shared all kinds of ideas, and okay, whatever. I don't have an opinion of them. But this book is a description of what happened in the trial. It's very, very interesting. So yes, this is what happened. This is exactly what the Germans are all about. Dora Lipstadt, yeah. Today she has an important function in the government. I think she's in charge of the anti-Semitism and all.
The Holocaust Museum.
What?
I think she's president of the Holocaust Museum.
Right. And she seems very nice lady, actually. I know some people wrote something. I mean, from the book, the way she wrote it seems very, very well written and very full of. It's good. It's a good book. I don't know her, but it's a good book.
What's the last name?
What did I say? Lipstadt.
In contrast with what's her name? Anna Arendt.
Right, as we were speaking before, she had all kinds of ideas, and I don't know, it was controversial to say the least. Okay, now I brought some more sources to make the point on the Parshat Toldot, which is a Parshat Shavua of before yesterday, to show that this hatred against the Jews came all the way from Esav already. That was really the problem between Yaakov and Esav. Now, remember, Yaakov and Esav were twin brothers, and they shared many things. One of the things that they were both exposed was the vision of their father and their grandfather. The vision, that vision is what we speak about now, to bring about the existence of God to the world, right? What did Avraham Avinu do? He had the Eshel, right? He had this inn into his place, right? And the people would come in and have a meal, and then after they would have a nice meal, they said, well, thank you, Mr. Abraham. He said, well, don't thank me. You have to thank the master of the universe who created the world. So that's the, so they all learned how to bench, and Nusach Ashkenaz, I don't know which Nusach they learned how to bench, but they all benched HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the idea of bring so that was the dream of Avram and Yitzchak, to bring God's existence to the world. And this is, and so they both had that. They both were raised with that. And Yitzchak thought that somehow Esav, he's going to be the one to be able to bring that about, because Yaakov is like the
butler.
He sits and learn all the time. Good, he's like too busy to learn, and he won't be able to affect the world with the Torah. He's going to be like we see Shebrochim today. They don't go to the army. They're not involved with anything. Just let me live as long as I can learn. And give me whatever money I need. To be able to learn and be a good Jew. I mean, maybe I'm going to say it sounds controversial, but the Haredi society today, they're not really interested in the overall society. They just, give us what we need so we can keep being religious and learn and do our things, and let them worry about the world, basically. So that's why I looked at Yaakov Avinu. That's what Yaakov is all about. So he can't do anything of the dream. I mean, he's a good guy and all, and he's going to sit and learn. Learning is important and all. And actually, Esav should support Yaakov, because the truth that learning is more than just important. It's very important. Learning itself is also the Torah is one of the pillars of the world. And all, if there's no Torah, then there's nothing. There's no Torah that has been learned. So what are you going to spread? A book which is dead. The Torah is the knowledge of understanding God's wisdom and what Hashem wants from the world. So of course Yaakov has to be there to learn and to understand it. But that's going to be spread through an Esau. That's what really he thought. Yitzchak, which is not unreasonable at all. In theory, but he was blind. He was literally blind, and he was figuratively blind as well. He didn't see that Esav had no desire, no connection to the dream of Yitzchak and Avraham. He had his own desire of living, having a good life, being a guy. That's what he wanted. You know how Esau, by the way, is called? The Gemara in Kiddush, I should have quoted it, but if I didn't think of it. The Gemara in Kiddush, I forgot where it is. It calls, it's the second paragraph, if I'm not mistaken. Chazal calls Esau Yisrael Mumar. You know what that means?
Mumar.
Mumar. He is a Jew who rejected. Because potentially he was a Jew. He was raised with old ideas, and he rejected it. He's a mumar. Mumar is someone, who is rejecting. Mumar is someone who denies the veracity of the Torah.
An anti-Jewish Jew.
Exactly, anti-Jewish Jew. He was the first one. And why was he a mumar? Because he chose the olam hazeh over what we call olam haba, but it's not olam haba, it's just the world to come. It's bringing this world as an expression of olam haba, which is the connection to God, right? Olam haba can be lived here. The Jews live olam haba in this world here by following HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah and by bringing the light to the world. And Esau was happy with just olam hazeh without the olam haba. Yes.
Maybe it was Yitzchak's fault. He didn't marry him.
He didn't marry Esau? I never knew that.
He thought he was Adomi. So he thought if he would marry him when he was a little child, he would die.
Really? And who says that?
Oh, yes.
I'm embarrassed to say, I've never heard that. But you all know that. I never heard it. Not the rabbis, I don't know.
Yes, I think it's in Mikrot Gedolot, I think.
You saw that somewhere? Really? That's interesting. I'm going to check it out.
Several times.
I'm going to check it out.
And when he was 13,
yes,
Esau himself decided, I want to be married.
I can't blame him. I mean, he's 13 years old, it's kind of a...
That might be the fault of Yitzchak.
Okay. Very interesting, Chazal, what you're saying. Never heard of that before.
Because he was a Jew.
Okay. I mean, it's a chidush what you're saying. It's a chidush what you're saying because, I don't think that the regular, Talmud literature says that. It must be somebody, it's one of the Mefarshim. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So in any case, Esau, he didn't reach... It didn't share those dreams, especially what Jackie says so then he wasn't even Brit Milah, so he would explain it, right? Now we should be careful not to put blame on Yitzchak or on anybody. We don't really have a comprehension of the greatness of our Avad. So we have to be careful not to blame them. We can ask questions. We can say, it's true, but we shouldn't be the one blame. We can ask the question, but we cannot put the blame on.
I asked the question.
Yeah, right. Maybe, right? That's good. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, there is Rav Hirsch. He says that actually he also puts some kind of a blame on Yitzchak and Rivka. And he says, well, they didn't have good communication. And that's why the kids came out the way they were. If they communicated well between each other, then they would have raised their kids differently. That's a direct accusation, actually. And only Rav Hirsch can afford to speak like that.
He communicated with his wife.
Exactly, that's what he says. That's what Rav Hirsch says, which is very insightful. And it sounds very true, but who are we to say that? Rav Hirsch can afford to say that. So now let's look at the brachot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Yaakov, thinking it was Esau. 8. V'yiten lecha Elokim mital hashama mishmanei haaretz v'rov dagan v'tirosh. Elokim will give you from the dew of the heaven and the goodness of the earth. And dagan v'tirosh and rov dagan v'tirosh and lots of grain and wine. So Rashi says, Hashem is usually now known as Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. The difference between Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and Elokim. Familiar with the difference? Yes, Elokim is usually used at Midat Hadin. So basically, Hashem says, Yitzchak says to Yaakov, think it's Esau, I'm blessing you with Midat Hadin. Meaning you have to deserve those brachot. Because I'm blessing you with the good things in this world as long as you will deserve that you will carry on my dream. You understand? And Rashi says that. Im ra'ui lecha, yiten lecha, v'im lav lo yiten lecha. But then, later on when he realized, and we're going to see how he realized, that Yaakov, that who he thought was Esau is really Yaakov, and Yaakov is the good guy, so to speak. Then to Esau he didn't give a bracha dependent on deserving or not. says, as long as they don't deserve their good things, you can have it. Because you don't deserve anything, basically. You're Esau, you're someone but it's still my son, I'm going to give you Olam Hazeh, so you can have a good life at least. That's what you want, but you're not going to get Olam Hazeh as Midat Adin, that you will be able to carry out HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence in Olam Hazeh. Now, why am I saying that? Look at number 9. Vayechrad Yitzchak Charada Gedolah Admad. When Esav walks in, suddenly Yitzchak gets this huge fear. Charada Gedolah. You have to understand, Yitzchak, he went through a lot. And he went through the knife being on his throat, right? He was not a scaredy cat. He was someone who went through traumas, as you say today. He was almost killed in Hara Moriah, And here he goes and he is scared the heck out of himself. He's so scared. What is he so scared about? Says Rashi, Vayechrad. Rashi learns Lashon Tema. He was asking, but it's more than that. But listen next one, the Midrash. Ra'a Gehenam Petucha mitachtav. Suddenly he sees Esav walks in, and there's Gehenna, there's darkness. He realized, all what I thought about Esav, no, there's nothing about him. It's all dark. Suddenly he realized how Rivka was right. See, Rivka did something so brilliant. She set up this entire spiel to show Yitzchak, you don't understand, you've been fooled. You think that Esav is the good guy because you had this spiel in your head. You don't understand what Yitzchak is all about. He has no connection to Olam Haba. He's pure Gehenna. He's a good boy. I mean, he's my son. I love him dearly and all. And he's going to have a good life here. Bless him for that. Let him have a good Olam Hazeh. But don't mix him in this dream of ours to bring God into this world. That's not him. That's only Yaakov. Now 11, we're going to finish with that. Kishmo Esav v'divrei aviv. When Esav heard that basically he is no longer connected to the dream of Yitzchak. Vayitzak tzaka gedola ad me'od. A shout, a huge shout. Oh my gosh, that's how bad I am. I have no connection to anyone, to any of that. But it's not going to change. He realizes that. And he realizes, oh, I wish that I could be connected to it. But I am not. I'm not connected to it. But the very fact that he wished to be connected to it was enough that when Yaakov was buried, and Chushi and Ben Dan, you know the story, Esav came to the Marat HaMachpelah when they wanted to bury Yaakov, and he says, well, what are you guys doing here? That's my spot over here. So he said, well, no, you sold your spot in the Marat HaMachpelah, you got good money for it, remember? Esav likes money, you got money for it, remember? Oh, really? I don't remember. You have a document maybe or anything? We forgot the document at home. Okay, so let's get, so once you can send somebody to bring me the document. So they sent Naphtali, was a fast runner to get a document. Then it was Chushin Ben Dan, he was deaf. And once you're deaf, one should never be deaf, that's not a bracha. But at least deaf people don't hear bad things, So you well, what's going on here? As well, Esav doesn't allow Yaakov to be buried. What? He took a sword and chopped his head off. And says the head of Esav was mitgalgel together with Yaakov, and Yaakov smiled. Because yet, some connection. Connection was that he realized, I should be part of those people. Chavalet, I am not. But you see, the fact that he wanted to be part of it had some reality to it. Because he had a great grandson, another emperor called Antoninus.
Pio.
How is it called?
Antonino Pio.
Antonino Pio. And he became a very good emperor. And he learned Torah with Rabbi. And the Gemara says he had Olam Haba. He was a wonderful. What?
He was freed from a Jewess.
Yeah, that's one of the Tesis brings that, right? He drank, right? He was fed, nursed by a Jew. Yeah. So in any case, so his great grandson, he had a connection to her, and he was the greatest, and he was a big Olam Haba. So it's basically, it's not that Esav couldn't be part of
Rabbi
it.
Akiva. also comes from Esau.
Right, so it says from Gerim, right. So it's not the pshat that the goyim have to hate us because they can't be part of it. They can be part of the dream. They can convert. They can stay. They can stay as goyim and being as a Shiva Mesominog with all their...
Virtually.
They can do it, just they don't want it. Yes, Chanach, I'm sorry.
They could become B'nai Noach. They don't have to
Exactly,
convert.
exactly.
Judaism is the only
Absolutely, absolutely.
Islam that does that.
Exactly. We allow them to be good people.
But still the hate is
So
there.
the hate is there because they realize that they don't want to have a connection with what's real. So the rejection of God is what makes them hate us. Yes.
If you put together what you said at the beginning about Sartre,
About what?
Sartre, what
Sartre.
you read about,
Sartre, yeah.
it's the same thing.
Why?
Because they feel a second choice
Right.
child.
Okay. Right. Right.
It's the same
The
thing.
same thing, basically. Right. But that's not only the lowest class; it's all the goyim altogether.
Yeah.
Right.
It's even
Very
worse now,
nice.
you
Very
have to
nice.
understand that, well, you don't have to understand. But,
I have to understand many things. Yes. Many things I don't understand.
no, the Holocaust was relatively successful in ridding Europe of Jews. But then we come back with a state and a kick-ass army, and it's like, what do we got?
It's incredible. Oh, it's so miraculous. I
But
mean, I just.
that feeds their hate, though.
Yeah,
They don't
absolutely.
come back.
I just saw a video, a cousin of mine sent me a video about this woman who was in Gaza during the horrors, and she was hiding in a closet with a Sefer HaZohar.
Yes.
And you read this crazy story, and she was basically learning the Zohar the whole time in the closet, and she felt like there was a light. I'm saying what she says, like wrapping around
She was a
her.
Chiloni.
She was I can see her. She didn't look very religious, but I guess she is very spiritual.
She became.
And basically all the houses around her were destroyed, and they came into her house, didn't touch the closet, and they walk out. And,
No, they tried.
yeah, they
They
tried.
tried
I
to
didn't get it.
destroy the door, but in the meantime, our forces arrived.
Oh, I see. I don't think I didn't
was,
see that you saying that.
I
In
saw
any
it
case,
all.
she was saved, and so you're incredible, America. We live in an era where things are nicht normal. It's not normal, is it? So incredible.
But that's the
And-
history of the Jew, continuous.
Yeah, but Hashem now is showing so much more than in our favorite we ever. So even though He shows all these horrors and all, He also shows us His face in an incredible way, and we have to really be mitchazek and understand that we have the zchut, because we are religious. We have the zchut to go on with the dream of our nation and do the best to be megalek v'at shamayim in the world. Yes, you raised your hand before, didn't you?
Well, to go back to the beginning, and I don't know what's on the videotape, so I won't put words in your mouth, but there's a difference between God planned it and God knew it, God was aware it was happening and didn't stop it. That's two different thoughts, yes or no?
No.
No.
I think there are two different thoughts. But I think that they are both true. In other words, He didn't stop it because that's what He wanted to happen. So, but you could, some people do say, it only means God didn't stop it, He didn't want it to happen. I don't think it makes any sense.
Okay.
We have the idea of Kvod Hamet.
Yes.
Eisenhower, after Auschwitz, why we didn't do it immediately? To show.
To show. Actually, they did. They made a very, very comprehensive video about all the horrors, and they have it.
40
And
journalists and 20...
yeah. See, I read the reason why they don't show it to everyone is because the families don't want it. So you could ask a question: should we listen to the families or not? It's a delicate question.
People
I wouldn't
don't
want to
know-
be the one
people
answering
don't
that
know what
question because the families have also sensitivity, and I'm happy I don't have to make the decision to it this way.
People don't know what happened.
And I also feel the same way, but I can understand it's coming from a good place.
I
not
was
to show it
trying to
everyone.
show some images. I got some images. I received a warning from an employee of the Jewish community in Rome saying, I'm going to denounce you to the police
Wow.
And I've been told from the Israeli embassy in Rome, we should not show them.
No, I think it's because they promised the families they won't, so they feel obligated.
You can put a mask
Cover
on the
the-
faces. Even now today, when they show some things, you don't see the faces of the soldiers. They
Right.
could have done the same.
Good point.
It's, to me, it was a very big mistake because in the war they don't know what happened.
Right. And they don't know because they don't want to know.
Well, after 1 month and a half, they can say it was an artificial
Yeah,
intelligence.
yeah. That's what I
But
got.
if you show it the day after,
It's true. And the bottom line, since they hate, so it's not going to make a difference in any case. But it would have been good for our PR in any case. Okay, gentlemen, I wish you all the very best.
I have a question.